There are few things quite as annoying as knocking off after a hard day of training, only to come home and find your planet has been attacked and its citizens turned to stone. It puts a dampener on your dinner plans, that's for sure. Alex Kidd's supper is going to have to wait, because wouldn't you know, his hard day of training is getting capped off by an invasion, and he's pretty much the only one who can stop it. So, packing his fists, Alex sets off to stop the villainous Janken across a series of quirky 2D side-scrolling levels. As a remaster of the original 1986 Sega Master System game, Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX is a visual remake with just enough new elements added to it to make it feel fresher for modern gaming audiences, while still staying slavishly true to its original platforming roots. Set against the backdrop of said invasion, Alex will platform and fight his way across a variety of levels that'll bring him into contact with angry bulls, power-ups, and bosses you have to beat in rock, paper, scissors matches. While it maintains old-school design to the extreme, its DX remaster brings a fantastic amount of visual charm to the table. However, your enjoyment of this title will depend on how much mileage you get out of said old-school design. Alex begins as rather short stages with only 3 lives, a punching attack, and no health bar. One-hit kills are the order of the day for our hero, making level navigation a challenging affair, especially when going up against flying or projectile-chucking enemies. There are plenty of blocks in this path for Alex to break, which may contain money, much-needed items with various abilities, ghostly enemies that'll zero in on you for insta-kills, and those essential 1-up extra lives. These blocks, although containing essential items, their contents are completely randomized, making breaking them a potentially hazardous affair. Without an in-game manual, figuring out what the power-ups actually do is something you're just going to have to experiment with. However, the most useful of them, next to the ones that let you fly past some tougher sections without taking damage, is the firing, which lets Alex shoot some much-needed projectiles. Beware though, if you die, you'll lose all those items. And die you will, quite a bit in fact. Sadly, death in Alex Kidd isn't merely because of the game's inconsistent difficulty, the need for old-school memorization, or super quick reflexes, also other factors, namely the game's collision boxes and how Alex controls. The collision boxes feel inconsistent, both when you're attacking enemies and getting hit by them. Sometimes, you'll be hit by something that was clearly passing over you, while the bulk of the time, when you're saddled with Alex's punch attack, you practically have to be within the enemy's collision box to register a hit. Punching the snot out of your enemies just isn't the way to go here because of the inconsistency. It makes acquiring that firing almost mandatory at times. Alex's movement is also rather imprecise. He has a tendency to slide all over the place, making pixel-perfect jumping and landing far more arduous than it needs to be. Most of the time I spent dying was because I needed to land on a single block above some sort of stage hazard, and Alex would either slide off the block or straight into an enemy. Stage difficulty also feels inconsistent. On some stages I struggled through, while the subsequent stage I might have breezed through. At the start of most stages you can buy a few items from the shop, and I highly recommend you do. Sure, not all are useful, but there's usually at least one item that'll make it easier to get through said level. That said, I wouldn't call Alex Kidd the pinnacle of difficulty, just more frustrating at times than it should be. Visually, Alex Kidd's graphical facelift is absolutely gorgeous. The 2D artwork is just sumptuous, from the background elements to the little details that fill out Alex's personality. The onomatopoeic balloons that pop when you defeat an enemy merely enhance the already charming cartoon aesthetic. It's easily one of the best 2D visual experiences on the market today when it comes to retro games. For those wanting something even more retro, a press of the shoulder button drops the game back to its 8-bit visuals. It's not all visuals in this remaster, however. Developers Janken team have also added some meat to the game with a few new levels, some additional writing to round out the story, and, most importantly, an infinite live setting, which will go a long way towards reducing some frustration of trying to play through with only 3 lives. Once activated, however, you'll have to start a new game to turn this mode off. When you complete the game, it opens up 2 extra modes, the Boss Rush mode and a Classic mode. Boss Rush is exactly as you'd expect, while Classic mode is, strangely, the developer's recreation of the original Alex Kidd, rather than just an original emulated version. A special shout out needs to be given to the game's music, which is fantastically infectious. Long after a play session had finished, I'd find myself humming some of the game's tunes. How much you'll get out of Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX is really dependent on how much of a fan you are of the original game and how much you enjoy retro platforming design. The gorgeous 2D artwork and infectious soundtrack go a long way towards paving over some of the design oddities that this remaster retains. I can't help but feel the developers should really have tightened up the controls. For a lot of modern gamers, Alex Kidd and Miracle World DX may not be an essential part of your gaming library, but fans of retro games should definitely check this out.